everyone, how's it going? In this video, we will talk about Palantir, trading under the ticker symbol PLTR. The financial market has been going through very volatile situations as of late, and one of the most talked about and sought after stocks has been Palantir. In today's video, we will go through what the company does and what it represents, the recent price actions, the company's financials, and my recommendation regarding whether it should be bought, sold, or held. If you appreciate my content, please consider to drop a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Also, please check out the link in the description section, as every help is greatly appreciated. So last week, Palantir saw its stock price down by 17%. This tendency has mostly remained unchallenged as of yet. Obviously, the market overall is having its collective belief that Palantir's trend would be able to last for a much shorter period of time, if anything at all, that is, because we're so used of a good news happening to Palantir and then all of a sudden another big dip occurs. This is mostly because over the course of 2022, there hasn't been many great moments for Palantir. I mean, at some point, I remember that at some point we were hoping to see whether Palantir can hold on to $8, right? That seems to be like an eternity ago, but to be honest, it's not that long ago. And we should always remember that the volatility with stocks like Palantir can sometimes be very significant. In the long run, Palantir remains a company with a lot of great potentials, from both the capacity to produce information with data, and also in the area of artificial intelligence, and to use it in order to use it like a leverage so that it can grow faster. And it's also banking on the current popularity of ChatGPT and other plugins or platforms of the sort in order to attract retailers' attention. Are there going to be other strong contenders in this area? Absolutely, just like everywhere. And I think that they may have a technical advantage compared to other companies like C3 or OpenAI in some areas, especially pertaining to data analysis and also in relationships. So, I think that at some point, Palantir will have to face the shifting nature of reality and to also answer questions about ethics and how to handle people's data that they need in order to analyze the current trends in the economy in order to service their clients. So these are the things that I think Palantir will have to deal with in the long term, and I think that they're dealing with it. It's just that this definitely needs time, and for the time being, I would say that Palantir remains a company that many people are interested in. Many people believe that whenever something good happens to either NASDAQ, startups, or the equity market, they will often think about Palantir. So this is why I think that Palantir does have a place in our portfolio. But for now, let's also take a look at its technicals. The trading volume of Palantir has been 75 million shares, compared to the average of 108 million shares. Over the past 52 weeks, the price fluctuated between $5.84 and $17.16. The volume of shares tells us how many shares are being bought and sold at any given point in time. So right now, it's 75 million shares compared to 108 million. What this tells me is that the momentum is not really there, and that if we were to see any sort of retracement, it shouldn't be anything outside of our expectation, to be honest. So, the market cap of Palantir is currently around $33 billion. The enterprise value, so this is what the company booked themselves on their financial statements, is around $15 billion. In other words, we're currently buying almost 100% plus of premium if we want to buy Palantir. Is it worth it? Possibly. I mean, I personally have a position, or actually, sorry, I personally had a position in the near past, and I don't exclude the possibility of entering once again. I mean, the fact that they're trading at a premium can also demonstrate that, they're just being popular, that this is a stock that will have a trend to itself and that will continue to gather interest. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. When we compare the current price to the historical one, the price is around, the current price is around 20% higher than the 1 month low, but 93% higher than the 3 month low and 140% higher than the 52 weeks low. On the options market, the implied volatility is around 60% versus the historical volatility of 70%. Put-call volume ratio is around 0.35, and the most recent volume of options traded is 334,000 contracts in a day versus the 30-day average of 542,000. Regarding the shareholder structure, institutional shareholders own around 33% of it, likely as a result of ETFs or mutual funds buying it, and also some institutions who want to hold Palantir for the long term. Overall, I think that Palantir is owned by a significant enough chunk of people for me to buy Palantir for the long term. However, the fact that it's just 33% and not 75% like Lucid is also showing us that the volatility of Palantir is likely going to get higher, if anything. If we look at the long-term price action of Palantir, we must ask ourselves whether this company will have a place in the economy of tomorrow. We know that the company will not be profitable for another few years. That much has already been priced in. We also know that Palantir is in a highly sophisticated area of the economy, and that it aims to become the analytic dashboard of the wealthiest entities around the world. The true debate is whether Palantir itself can stand the test of time, and whether the market will believe in its potentials to become something bigger and more critical. Palantir fell by almost 80% from the peak of the share price, from $35 down to $7.28. Much of this is due to the overall market trend, and the rest is caused by doubts on the company's growth potentials, as well as the business model to work with government agencies. Now, personally, I believe that Palantir has been testing its bottom for some time now, as the downward slope stopped the progression for more than 6 months. Ever since the price reached about $8 back in May of this year, the rest of the downward slide is probably caused by the habit of just going lower by default. Does this mean that the stock will reach new high very soon? Maybe not. But on the other hand, I do believe that Palantir will have a place in the future and that its price is due for some significant change as well. Given that it's been down by so much, the only logical direction that it's going to go is going to be up. Palantir Technologies is a software company specializing in providing big data analytics and management solutions to various industries, including finance. The company's flagship product, Palantir Gotham, is a powerful platform helping organizations to make sense of their data by providing advanced data integration, analysis, and visualization capabilities. One of the key features of Palantir Gotham is its ability to integrate data from a wide variety of sources. The platform can work with structured and unstructured data, including text, images, and videos, and can also handle data in multiple formats and languages. This makes it an ideal solution for organizations with data spread across multiple systems and departments. It also provides advanced data analytics capabilities, including natural language processing, machine learning, and predictive analytics. Those features allow organizations to uncover hidden insights and patterns from the data. Another key advantage of Gotham is the ability to provide secure and role-based access to the data. The platform uses a combination of technical controls and policy-based access to ensure that only the authorized users can access the sensitive data. This is very important for organizations in the financial sector, which are subject to strict regulatory requirements for data security and privacy. Palantir's solution is widely used by government and intelligence agencies, as well as by major financial institutions, consulting firms, and other kinds of organizations around the world who can afford it. This is due to the platform's ability to help these organizations to make sense of their own datasets and to identify patterns and trends that could optimize their decision making. Now, as we look at Palantir's financials, the first thing that is noticeable is the positive gross margin. Above all else, this is a decent reminder that the company's core business seems to work. It is true that revenue has been growing slowly, which sparked some worries from investors, but the fact that the gross profit is positive means that the main issue is the scalability and the diversification of its operations, which may solve the problem once they reach a critical number of clients. We gotta remember that Palantir's revenue managed to grow despite the fact that there is a de facto recession in many economies around the world, meaning Palantir's clients are relatively robust, which can be a good thing for the company. The cash flow reports suggest that despite having a net loss due to the fixed costs, Palantir can self-finance significant portions of its operations with a positive free cash flow at the end of each quarter ever since Q1 of 2021. This means that the pressure of Palantir to go through rounds of share dilutions would be relatively low, which is a good thing for the shareholders. Another significant aspect to consider is that its liabilities seem to be under control, currently around 933 million, which is mostly constant and slightly decreasing compared to the previous quarters. This is also very reassuring and suggests that Palantir is also keen on making sure that they have a low leverage, decreasing their solvency risks. There's about 33% of institutional owners amongst Palantir's shareholders. So what this means is that Palantir does have a significant endorsement from the money managers, but they are largely outnumbered by the retails, and that there will be a significant chunk of people going in and out of the stock based on the market movements and the short-term price actions. It would also suggest that Palantir is good for investment, but if we do so, we must be aware of the people who want to profit off the swings, meaning we need to ignore the short-term volatilities. One key behavioral difference is that institutionals can afford to wait longer for their profits, whereas the retails tend to come in and out in very short periods of time because they want to make quick profits. Also, institutional shareholders tend to be more active in corporate governance. They are more likely to vote on important matters like mergers and acquisitions, compensations, appointments, and so on. They're also more vocal in their opinions, whereas the retail shareholders, they tend to be more silent and more passive in front of different decisions to be made. Currently, there are around 4.2 million shares shorting against Palantir. Some believe that there might be potentials for a short squeeze, because those 4.2 million shares would need to be redeemed at some point, and right now it takes about 4 days to fully recover. With that being said, I believe that Palantir currently has a certain volume of short positions because people truly believe that the company has a lot of headwind against it. I don't believe that they are concerted, and they're also not entirely institutional. It's important to note that a short interest is not a guarantee of a short squeeze, but it's a metric worth monitoring for the investors. It's also worth considering that the short sellers may have valid reasons for their bearish sentiment, and a short squeeze may not happen regardless of how many stars are being aligned. Now, my recommendation is to hold on to your existing Palantir position for the time being, and to add new shares if you have any allocations left. As long as Palantir remains above $10, I think that it's worth it to add up to your current exposure. But remember, I am personally going in for this for the medium to long term, right? Unless there are some pretty obvious signs that maybe the position should be temporarily liquidated. But other than that, I think that Palantir should remain in your portfolio and we can ignore the unrealized losses over the next couple of years. Like that needs to be priced in your mind before you decide to buy more Palantir shares. I would recommend to commit between 3 to 5% of your portfolio in Palantir and to buy them in the allocation of like 10 to 20% of your total allocation so that you can purchase more if it retraces.